Hello everyone, this is Vicky, Messy Stitcher. I'm back finally. Yes, I know it's been absolutely ages. I do look a bit of a state today. I've got no makeup on, my hair's a mess, I'm in my Primark pyjamas. Very British, I have a nice cup of tea with me. And if you hear weird noises in the background, that's my cat Omen, black cat. I'm going to just actually show you to her before I forget. This is Omen. Omen. Oh, can I get the... Trying to get the camera right. There she is. That wasn't a very successful attempt as usual at using technology, but there you go. So I've got loads to update you on, loads to talk about. If you're bored, by all means I won't be offended if you switch off. But my boyfriend's actually out for the evening and I'm in the new house, which means I actually am in the house on my own, and I thought it would be a really good opportunity to record a new video. So here we go. As usual, I've got my trusty note with me. So I just wanted to explain a little bit about why I was away so long. I was really anxious actually that I was going to really lose subscribers over the time I was away, and I probably have lost some. I don't really take that kind of stuff to heart too much. I think, you know, the main thing is I enjoy making the videos. But I was a bit conscious about that. I don't think I massively ended up losing subscribers, which is good. The reason why it took so long is I remember the latest video I had recorded, which was months ago now, had spoken about, you know, it's imminent, we might be moving any time, and obviously it was very stop-start, and those of you that have watched my other videos will know how much I was going on and on about moving house. Probably bored everybody, and to cut a long story short, it ended up happening very suddenly on a week that we'd actually convinced ourselves it wasn't going to happen at all, which was good in some ways, but it was all very sudden. Had to pack up all of our stuff. We've actually been without Wi-Fi for over 2 months now. We were supposed to be hooked up with EE. They basically messed it up, didn't sort it out. So we've been kind of going through different providers, and finally we're set up and ready to go. So I was relying on my 3G on my phone. I don't get like a really bad. I might put my feet up because I'm actually quite worried that my cat's going to attack my feet. So yeah, I mean, I was, you know, I don't have a really bad 3G bundle, but you know, it's not particularly great. So I was worried that I wouldn't, you know, that I couldn't keep track of things. So I definitely couldn't watch hardly any Flosstube, which was really frustrating for me because there she goes. Because I really love watching Flosstube. It used to be something I did regularly to chill out, and for those 2.5 months or so, it's felt really odd. It's like the equivalent of not having Facebook. It's just really, really weird. I've tried as best as I can to kind of pop in and out of the cross stitch and discuss Facebook group, which I'm a member of, and I'm also a member of Stitch Mania. I tend to, for no particular reason, no preference at all, it's just I tend to comment more on cross stitch and discuss because it's my kind of the one that comes up first when I search, because it was one of the first ones that I subscribed to. So I kind of dip in and out of that, and I recognise that there are some people from the Flosstube community on there, which is great. But I felt really disconnected from everything, and I'll be honest, I've been, you know, obviously I've now got an absolutely huge backlog of videos to watch, which I'm really looking forward to, and I'm going to do after I record this video. But it does mean that it's going to take me a while to get through your videos, but don't worry, I will get there. So we had the internet thing, we had the house move. Some of you will have noticed that I did upload a video about a month ago now, I think it was, because I was accessing wireless internet from where I work. I work usually from a library, and I decided to just upload what I had on my personal laptop. Now, what that was supposed to be I had an idea for like a 3-video binge, and at the time I was starting to record them, I started recording them because I knew I was going to be moving house soon. I anticipated a big break, so I wanted there to be this series of videos available on my channel so you didn't get too bored in the meantime. What happened was that the move came sooner than expected, and I'd only recorded sort of 2.5 of the videos. So I decided when I was working from the library on the really rubbish Wi-Fi that doesn't have much capability to upload, it took me forever just to upload the one video. And it was a way of saying, look, I am still here, I'm going to try and upload when I can. But then what happened was life got in the way for another couple of weeks. Work was really, really busy. I kept thinking about uploading the second video, and to be honest, it just got to a point where it really wasn't worth doing because it was so out of date by this point, and I kind of went off the idea. So the first one you would have seen was a wish list video, which I think is all right. I mean, that's probably the most up to date out of all of them because that was the one that I didn't have, you know, that's kind of more or less stayed the same because of my internet situation. But there was some others I kind of felt it was getting towards, you know, one of my videos was going to be a tag video. And those tags that I was mentioning in it have long gone on Flosstube, and I think I've really missed the boat there. So I just thought I'd explain myself a little bit there. Sorry if that was boring, but what that does mean is that video 1 of 3 video binge is not actually a 3 video binge anymore. Let's just leave that there, park that there, and kind of start afresh from where we are now. It's really annoying because the cat keeps doing stuff when I'm trying to talk to you, which is really irritating, but never mind. So, life update before we get on to the main thing. So, as you probably haven't actually noticed that this is a different background. This is a very boring grey background, but we are now finally in the house. I would like to do a tour with you to kind of show you the house, and I'm possibly going to do, I've never even thought for some reason to ever do a video on my video phone. I suppose it's because I assume the camera's not that great, but it's got to be better than Windows Movie Maker. This isn't great either. So maybe at some point I'll do like a walking tour video of my new house, just in case you're interested. But for now, suffice to say, I'm sitting on my new sofa in my new living room. I can see lots of Christmas candles and things. So that's that. We got a new cat, Omen, who you saw. She was a black cat. So she used to be called Magic. What happened was we wanted to get a pet for a very long time. Now we've got our hamster called Arwell, who we've had for about 1.5 years, and he's getting quite old now. And we wanted a bit more of an interactive pet, but we kind of spoke about it and we realised that it wasn't really responsible to have a dog. We're not in the house enough. We wouldn't be able to afford for them to go into like daycare or anything, so they're getting walked during the day, and it just seemed a little bit cruel. We don't have the time to commit to kind of training a dog. So I guess a cat was the next logical thing. I'm slightly panicky because I've got a massive frog and toad phobia. I'm really, to the point where even when somebody uses the word frogging on CrossFit, like I know that sounds ridiculous, but that makes me feel a bit funny. So mostly it's about the real things and about realistic photos of them and stuff and them appearing on TV. I'm absolutely petrified, and because I know that cats bring in presents of like dead animals and live animals and stuff, and I've known my mum's cat to bring in a frog, which triggered the whole phobia off. I was really, really questioning whether I should do it. But I decided that was quite a silly reason. One minor thing that could happen possibly one day is a minor thing to not get the pet cat for. So we got her, we went to a local refuge. That's a bit of a story in itself, but she is about 6 months old. So we adopted her when she was about 4.5 months, 5 months. So she's not a little kitten, but she's still little enough that you can see she's got some growing to do. So we've been spending some time settling her into the house, and I think she's about ready to go outside. She's microchipped and neutered and everything, but if anybody has any tips on how to get a collar on a cat, I'd really appreciate it, because she's really hyperactive at the moment and she's also still quite jumpy. So trying to get a collar on her, I did attempt it the other day, and it wasn't even, I didn't even get anywhere near it. But genuinely, if anybody has any idea, I mean, she's microchipped, so I'm not too worried. But the thing is that I'm concerned somebody might try and feed her, and being a kitten, being new and susceptible, she might go off and not come back. So I'd rather she has some sort of identity on her, but it might be that that's not to be. So the plan is to basically try her out in the garden for about half an hour tomorrow when it's still daylight, try and get her used to the cat flap. And then I guess we'll find out whether she returns to us or not. But it's getting to the point where, yeah, it would be good to kind of let her outside, because she's incredibly hyperactive. And I think a lot of that is she's just not getting to kind of do what cats do really in the wild. So I'm looking forward to that. So that's a bit of an update. This is probably the wrong time to tell you this because it's in a complete mess, but I have had a new haircut. It doesn't normally look quite this messy. As you probably realise, I have long hair. I've grown it for like 2 years, and then yes, I did typical me. I went to the hairdresser and I got it all chopped off. So now I have like a long graduated, slightly curly bob that's now brushed out because I couldn't stand to leave it not brushed before bed. So maybe one day you'll see it when it doesn't look like such a mess, but that's where the hair's gone, and I'm still undecided whether I'm really happy about it or not, but we'll see. The other thing, which of course I don't know how I could not mention this, is it's nearly Christmas. So as you can guess by the double whammy pyjamas, I'm absolutely obsessed with Christmas. One disadvantage of having a kitten in the house is we really quickly realised that having a Christmas tree downstairs wasn't going to work. So we've actually got a Christmas tree upstairs in the bedroom, which seems a bit weird at the moment, but it's a twinkly pink and gold kind of pastel-y theme. I'm actually going to be doing a non-cross-stitch related video next, hopefully, before Christmas, because I love Christmas and I get really excited about it, but I've been incredibly busy this year and I feel like I've missed some of the usual buzz. So what I thought I would do is I've been quite organised with my Christmas shopping, and I've actually got all of our presents that we've bought for people under the bed. And I thought it might make a nice change to show you what Christmas presents I bought this year for people, and a little bit of a story about why I picked them. So that's a bit random, completely understand that I probably won't get many views of that, but I just thought it was fun. And it's a way of me commemorating Christmas for this time next year, so I'm looking forward to that. Now, before I move on to strictly cross-stitch related stuff, I thought I would share two exciting Christmas things with you. One is that my mum got me this advent calendar. She normally gets me a Dairy Milk one, but she got me the Yankee Candle one. She shouldn't have done because it's really expensive, but you get like 5 or 6 different types of candles, like sort of tea lights in there, and you get a votive candle at the end on Christmas Eve. So I've been putting them on. I've never probably mentioned it to you before, but I've got a bit of a candle obsession. I'm a bit of a candle collector, but Yankee Candle in particular. So I've got candles everywhere in the house. And yeah, it was a really thoughtful thing for her to do. So I've been counting down to Christmas with that. The other thing, which is random, but a lot of people like craft like this magazine. So obviously it's no disrespect and it really doesn't matter at all, but it's just an observation. This magazine that I'm going to show you is usually a magazine for people around my mum's age, I'd say, generally speaking. But I get it every year at Christmas time because it has the most amazing Christmas issue. It just basically is a whole issue of it dedicated to Christmas ideas, wrapping, presents, things about the day, nostalgic things, all sorts of stuff. So I bought the Christmas or the December issue of Good Housekeeping magazine for those of you that are in the UK, and I cannot recommend it enough. If you're obsessed with Christmas like me, this is an absolutely amazing magazine for all sorts of reasons. Not just because it's Christmassy, but because it gives you lots of ideas for presents for people, and genuinely gives things like really good reviews of food and gadgets and all sorts of things that you might be thinking of spending a lot of money on at Christmas. So definitely comes highly recommended from me. So that's that bit random. Now let's get on to cross stitch. Okay, so there's quite a lot to talk to you about. Okay, so to refresh your memory, and I'm sure it doesn't need much refreshing, but as you all know, I have struggled with my Mirabilia. The idea was that I was going to be doing this for my mum's Christmas present, and I'm so gutted, and it's probably inevitable and everyone's going to laugh, but obviously I realised that it's not going to get done in time. I've given it as much attention as I could. It was my sole whip for about 3-4 months, but the times I could work on it were so few and far between that I just haven't been able to make the amount of progress I wanted to make on it in order to give it to my mum this Christmas. So it's really heavy heart that I have to say that it will have to be next year's present. My mum's birthday is on New Year's Day, which means that there isn't even the option of waiting a few months and giving it to her for her birthday. What I could do is, rather than give it to her as a Christmas present in 2016, is I could perhaps give it to her kind of in November time so that she can display it in her house. So that's one idea. But yeah, I'm a little bit gutted because I kind of really, as you will probably know from some of my other videos and posts in the cross stitch groups if you've seen them, I really have had enough of this kit. It's really not my thing, and it's nothing against Mirabilis. There's nothing I can say about it other than just for me, I don't know if it's Mirabilis in general, but this Mirabilia I just have not enjoyed, and it's not just because I've been focusing on it. It's because for a start, I didn't like the recommended linen. I thought it was quite coarse. It didn't have any nice kind of texture to it. There's several things about the colours I don't feel work. I don't think that they're I don't think they really match the DMC colours that you get with the kit when you buy the sort of bundle of stuff on like 123 Stitch or whatever. I don't feel is very representative of what the finished product is supposed to be. So in this case, there's lots of pinks, which I think should be reds. Doesn't really look quite right to me. And I just don't find them an enjoyable stitch. So it's really no offence, because I know Mirabilis are huge, and I think for some people they're just probably just amazing. But I think for the type of stitcher I am, I don't think they're for me. So reminder, this was Royal Holiday. I feel like I've shown you that a million times. When I show you, you'll probably think I've made quite a lot of progress, but this was over quite a long amount of time, so I shouldn't imagine it's that impressive. But this is where I have got to with her. So I've now got to the point where I've started to work on the kind of cloak going round. There's kind of a good small portion of the top of her dress, and I've done the majority of the upper part of the chart. But there are kind of a few details to go back with. I haven't even got some of the threads. I haven't got the metallic threads or the beads yet as well, which is why there are some bits missing. I don't know, the positive is that I persevered. The negative is that I don't know why I forced myself to do something. Like, I was kind of in that mind frame that I think we all get into, which is good in some ways, where we think, no, I really want to finish this, and I can't keep not, finishing stuff, and let's just get it done, and I'll feel so much better about myself when I do it. But to be perfectly honest with you, I really do feel that it is not worth doing things that you don't feel passionate about when something is supposed to be a hobby. If it's like a small card-shaped thing that you can get done relatively easy, I think that's one thing. But to keep persevering with something that you're quite obviously not enjoying, and especially when you're putting a deadline on yourself that doesn't really need to be there, I just think it takes the joy out of it, really. So for me, that's something that I'm going to be quite aware of now. So that's that. The next whip that I have, you might remember me mentioning in one or two of my videos before. This is very soon, this video is going to turn into a compilation of like cross-stitch fails. Basically what it was is I got the lovely frosted pumpkin gingerbread house. And I'm going to try and see, Christmas on Gingerbread Lane, sorry it's called that. Sorry, best picture I can find at the moment. So it looks like that. It's a really lovely design, and actually it's funny because I wasn't really into I wasn't massively into frosted pumpkin to look at online, but there is just something about them that I can completely understand why people get so into them. Now that I've actually physically ordered a kit, well not a kit, got the stuff myself for a kit, I can really understand why people like them. They're a lovely stitch. The colour work threads that are generally recommended to go with them. Oh, sorry, I don't know if they are recommended. I've just used Colourworks and DMC. It's just lovely, and the recommended linen was Cashel linen. So I can't remember. I think this is like some ale or pale ale or something, this Cashel linen. But that is how much I've done. So I've done the middle Christmas cottage. I'm really pleased with how this came out. That didn't take too long. That was probably, well, you're probably going to think this is long, but for me it's not long. Probably only took a couple of weeks to get to that point, which is very quick for me. And I've definitely found my favourite fabric to work on is Cashel linen. Really lovely. Probably can't see the colours very well there, but very sort of glittery and, you know, really, really nice. There's quite a lot of variation in the Colourworks threads as well, which I don't know if you can see. So this again was supposed to be a Christmas present. I think if I did really push, I could possibly finish it, but to be honest, I know I'm going to be too busy now before Christmas. So again, it is something that's going to have to be a present kind of later half of next year. But do you know what? My cousin is who I was doing it with, is absolutely obsessed with Christmas like me, and she will probably be just as happy to receive it in April for her birthday as she would do at Christmas. So it wouldn't be weird in our relationship for me to give her this for her April birthday. So I'm thinking about doing that, because that will be achievable, she says. So there you go. That's how far I got with that. I wanted to share with you some of the lovely colours in it. I might be wrong about this because it's been a really long time since I looked at the chart, you know, because obviously I've been out of action for a while. So mostly I've been doing my Mirabilia up until recently. But I believe that the Frosted Pumpkin kits recommend a brand of thread that is not generally that available in the UK, but I might be making that up. So what I have done is gone with a combination of Weeks Dye Works and DMC, or maybe that was just what they recommend anyway. I just thought there's some really lovely colours here to show you. So we've got this really... Oh no, I realise I've done this before. I'm not going to bore you. But I'm just going to say that I really like the colours and they're lovely, and I have shown you them in a video before, so let's not waste your life, a few minutes of your life, me recounting that for you. But yeah, this is a lovely project, and to be honest, part of me wishes that I focused on it. Another look quickly. Part of me wishes I focused on that more than when I'd done the Mirabilia, because this was, right from the start, I knew that this was a more realistic finish. I could have easily got this done in the time that it took to finish my Mirabilia, or to do that much of my Mirabilia, so I'm a bit disappointed. That's the way things go sometimes, and it wasn't really that much of a surprise to me, because I do have a really bad track record of actually getting anything done. It's not the end of the world. I did actually feel genuinely quite disappointed. It's like, oh, really? You know, another thing I haven't managed to get done. But I suppose it comes down to choices. If I really had wanted to get it done that badly, I would have found a way, and I didn't. And, you know, it's okay to make the choice. I think sometimes that other things are more important. And at the moment, unfortunately, the house has kind of taken priority. So I've had to be quite disciplined with myself as to how much time I'm using sewing. And then when I have had time, I felt quite tired. But this leads me on quite nicely to my current whip. This is a whip I don't think I would have mentioned in my previous videos, because I don't think I've been to the knitting and stitching show then. So I went to the October Knit and Stitch show, which was really, really fun. I got a few things there, nothing massive. I'll show you a few other bits in a minute. But one of the things I picked up was 100 Years by Lizzie Kate. So I don't know if you can see that. So 100 years from now, it will not matter what kind of car I drove, what kind of house I lived in, how much I had in my bank account, nor what my clothes looked like, but the world may be a better place because I was important in the life of a child. I thought that was really lovely. You know my frustration with Lizzie Kate designs. Needless to say, yet again, there were issues with the chart. I mean, luckily they're not major issues, but I will say again, this is a consistent problem with Lizzie Kate. So you'll look, there's two main problems I've realised come up with Lizzie Kate designs. So when you look at the front of the design, you'll notice, for example, that every K that's used is done in exactly the same way, which would make sense. When you look at the chart, they have a habit of, on the actual chart, a K in one word will be plotted differently to a K in another chart, so it looks like you're doing two different styles of the same letter, but you don't see it on the finished photo. It's almost like they've corrected it somehow in the finished photo, but it just keeps coming up. And the other thing is about the distance between words. So again, the chart will do one thing, it will space something very far apart, and then when you actually look at the front of the design, you realise that that's not as far or as close as it was meant to be. So I don't know what the issue is with Lizzie Kate, but I've now noticed this on 3 separate charts, and I'm starting to think that there's a problem with how they're made, how they're charted. As I say, it's not really a problem because it's not a big enough deal to really bother me. If I was a real perfectionist, it probably would. I just tend to just adapt around it. But I am curious to know if anybody else has had this problem, because I can't be the only one. I mean, I'm not a particularly observant person about stuff like that, and if I've noticed it, I'm sure other people on Flosstube have. So it's a bit disappointing because you sort of pay, you know, not loads of money, but you pay a certain amount of money for what is essentially, you know, just a pattern. And it's a shame that there's not a little bit more attention to detail there, because it can be quite confusing, but never mind. I converted the colours, and I should say this is for my boyfriend's sister, who we have a niece from her. This is for her Christmas present, and I am sticking with this because these are very quick, easy stitches that can get done quickly. So I've converted it to purples. So I've got some lovely colours. So I have got, you will notice, Crescent Colours or Colour Weeks Coloured Dye Works or whatever. Both of those I absolutely love, and I've got some really different sort of shades of pinky purple for this one. So I have got Heather Lee, so you can see it's kind of got these sort of, it's very pink and purple contrast there. We've got Plum Paisley, which does have variegation, but it is very dark and it's quite hard to see. It's quite hard to see there. I have Argyle Socks, which is a lovely kind of rainy day kind of grey blue colour mixed with a purple. And finally, for the 4th colour, and this is what I love as well, you sort of, it doesn't take loads and loads to do it with it. I'm just going to check my battery actually. Yeah, that's fine. And then I have pickled beets, which is, sorry, this is in a mess, but this is actually quite similar to some of the others, but again, it's a variegated mix. So I'm doing that. This is how far I've got. I'm quite pleased because this is only really about 2-3 days worth of working on it for a few hours at a time. So I have done that much. You may have picked up on the thing that I'm really annoyed about, which is I got this on a stall, this chart, in at the Cross-Stitch Fair, and this is the 2nd time something like this has happened to me. I know that there is generally supposed to be a 2 to 3 inch border around any design that you do, to allow for frame, to allow for framing. The lady, it's just a genuine mistake, I suppose, but she's given me a piece of fabric that is barely big enough to fit the width of this design on. Not only that, this is really fraying all over the place, and I know all I need to do is put some masking tape on it, which is why I have bought some. But it's frustrating because it doesn't normally, I don't normally do that much with the edges of my thread and my fabric, and it's really eating into it. So I'm going to put that masking tape on before I work on any more. So yeah, it's a little bit, if anybody has any tips on kind of framing something when it's quite frayed and there's not much room, that would be really appreciated, because I'm obviously going to have to start thinking about framing it soon. So that's that. It's kind of, I always get, I don't worry too much with Lizzie Kate designs because they're meant to be quite simple, but obviously I do sometimes, you know, worry about converting colours on designs like this and whether the contrast is going to be right and stuff. But I've been, you know, generally speaking, it seems to work out okay on Lizzie Kate's designs because they're quite a kind of, it's only over 3 or 4 colour palettes, but you know, I really like Lizzie Kate's. I think they make up quite easily, so I'm looking forward to having that finish and hopefully having one finish in the whole of Christmas, but we'll see. So that is my Lizzie Kate design, which brings me on to things that I've bought. So unfortunately I had a really lovely snowman chart that I got on one of the stalls and I haven't been able to find it. So it's a real shame, but if I happen to find it another time, I will show you. But this was a lovely one that I picked up from a store called Stitches Day of Christmas, and it was £11, so you know it was fairly on the pricey side for a pattern. But let's see if I can show you. So it's got all lovely kind of designs in place of the 12 days of Christmas related to sewing. So it's all 12 pairs of ginghers, 11 golden needles, 10 cuts of linen, 9 bags of buttons, 8 silver thimbles, trying to read this, 7 fine new patterns, 6 chatelaines, 5 skeins of silk, 4 hours free to stitch, 3 stitching frames, 2 sewing birds, and a hat box full of over-dyed threads. So it really reminded me of all of us Flosstubers. So that would have been a nice one to make, but that's just one. I really like it, but it's not something that I'm really thinking, oh, I have to get that done right now. That will be one for another year, but that's really lovely. So I got that. I got 2 things for Northern Expression kits that I want to do. So it will be no surprise to you whatsoever that I'm getting my phone because I've got some pictures on here that will relate to it. So it'll be no surprise to you that I have joined the bandwagon of doing the twisted band sampler cross stitch version. Naively I didn't, and I must be the last person in the world on Flosstube at least to have discovered this, but I didn't realise there really was a cross stitch only version, because I was thinking, oh, how come all these cross stitches are doing this, what is essentially an embroidery kit? Because I knew some people would be really good at embroidery, but I also knew that other people, you know, are like me, they're more kind of just into the cross stitch. But yeah, eventually figured it out thanks to some people on the cross stitch group. So I am doing this kind of design here. So it's, you know, you will have seen this design around Flosstube a lot. I'm sure you're familiar with it. So I downloaded the chart on Etsy, and when I went to the Knit and Stitch show, I got a few materials to help me. So I have bought a really big hoop, which I think might be quite useful for this project, but you know how I feel about hoops. I'm not that bothered about them. They never really work out for me. It's probably much more to do with the way I stitch and problems I have with that than it is about the product itself. But I'm not very likely to use this, so perhaps this will be a giveaway if I decide it's not really worth my while. But yeah, so I've got this. I got a lovely piece but it's a great big piece of black even weave, because the really awkward people at the fair couldn't kind of be flexible in any way about the piece of even weave that I bought, which is a shame. So I've got this huge piece. I won't unfold it actually all, but that's all I have done. I've just marked 2 yellow stitches. What is really frustrating is I managed to get almost every single colour that I needed, apart from the red, which is the first one that I needed, which is really annoying. But look at these lovely bright colours, and you'll notice, wow, it's reasonably well organised for me, and that's because I've picked up these handy things, which are, I don't know if you've ever seen them. So first there's these little DMC plastic wallets, which are only 50p each at the fair, and these help you store your threads while you're working. And you'll notice that they have these kind of numbers on them, which is obviously their thread number. And they were also selling these kind of sort of sticky labels of all the different DMC colours. And I'm not usually one to go into doing all that because I'm really lazy, but I actually thought for a project where there are similar colours, or you know, to avoid me getting in too much of a mess, I thought, well, why not? And it will also, I wanted to start trying to keep a log of DMC colours that I've got through other kits, so that I don't keep buying things that I might already have in another kit. So I haven't got enough of the plastic wallets to do that for everything I've got at the moment, but this is a start, and it means that I have an idea of what I already have, which is good. That kit, I would love to say that will be top priority next year. I hope it will be, because I've wanted to do that kit for a really long time, but I have a feeling other things will get in the way. But I would like that to be one of my main whips next year, but we'll see. Consult my list. So the other Northern Expressions kit that I really want to do is called, let me try and find it, it's called Celtic Snow, and it's one of the most beautiful designs I've seen for a really long time. And it's probably not new to many people. I'm probably, again, one of the last people to recognise it. But there you go, it's lovely. So that's on what looks like some lovely hand-dyed kind of midnight blue fabric. So there's a bit of a story with this. I went to the Knit and Stitch show. I decided that I wanted to buy the materials for this. My mum was really generous and gave me some spending money, which made me feel about 15. But she kind of said that she wanted to give me a bit of money. She gave my brother some money or something. So that doesn't normally happen. She doesn't normally give me money at all. So I was really pleasantly surprised. So I thought, okay, let's look this up online. I got so confused, and the thread that they recommended that you get wasn't actually readily available on the day or online in the UK. Can't remember what it was again. So instead, what ended up happening was that I tried to convert it to Weeks Dye Works threads. Then I came up against a problem that there are two very similar ones, variegated shades in the design, that end up, when you convert them to Weeks Dye Works, being the same colour, which doesn't work. So I've hit a bit of a stumbling block, but because I love Weeks Dye Works so much, what I think I might do is try and get hold of the proper threads that are intended for that design, because I have a feeling that it's better to go with the recommended threads, even if I have to get them on an American site. But I might keep the Weeks Dye Works ones for other projects. And I thought I'd show you their lovely colours while they're still all nice and neat. So we have Aqua, which is lovely. It's like, you probably can't see, but it's a lovely kind of, it's actually quite a baby blue kind of dolphin-y kind of colour, but everything's got a bit of a tinge, partly because it's night time and partly because this camera is not the best. We have Chablis. I probably should know how to pronounce that. It's very pale pink that does have some white variegation, but it's almost impossible to see. It's such a shame that this isn't coming through on the camera. Much darker, called Blue Bonnet. Again, it does have some variegation, but quite slight. We have Lilac. I think it was Lilac which was the one that was going to be more or less the same for two colours, so I thought better of using this. So Lilac. It's coming up completely the wrong colours, but never mind. And I really love this. This one's my favourite, and it's called Spring Bouquet. And as you can see, there's lots of kind of pastel-y kind of colours almost together. It's a bit like the baby blanket one from somewhere else. So those are some threads that I might just add to my collection and use them for something like a Lizzie Kate design when something comes up that seems good to use. But there is also obviously a chance that it works out with the Celtic Snow one. But has anybody done Celtic Snow? I'm assuming that there must be somebody online that has. If you have, let me know how you found it to stitch. It looks like it'd be a really nice stitch. It also reminds me to say that, as I've been saying for about a year now, I really do actually want to start getting into hand-dyed fabric subscription. I think there was a point when it wasn't really justifiable, but now, because I'm into a lot of the kind of make your own kits and getting my own stuff, I think this probably, not spend too much, but get a reasonable kind of deal on that would be good. So we'll see. So as I told you, completely random. Couple of other things I wanted to mention. So you will probably see, oh, that's so nice. Yeah, so basically I've put that away. So basically I've been for ages not really being very technical and being a bit haphazard stitcher. I have usually bought size 26 or 28 needles. And I got into this habit of using size 28 needles because I prefer a smaller, thinner needle. My probably pet hate when stitching is having a really clumpy needle that kind of you have to really poke in. But I wondered how other people get on with size 28, because I probably use it for 28 count. and I think it's probably designed for 32 count, but they're snapping all the time. I'm sure it's probably me being heavy-handed, but they're just snapping all the time, incredibly difficult to kind of thread in. So I've decided that size 26 is my ideal size, and I'm sticking to that unless I go up onto sort of a much less fine kind of fine thread count. So yeah, so I wondered what other people thought. Who uses size 28 needles, and what size fabric do you use them on? It would be interesting. I use mine on 28 count linen, but I have realised that 26 is probably the right one, and it's probably what everybody would recommend to me. So there you go. I did want to show you some things that my aunt is probably the only person in my family who's like a proper cross stitcher who still does loads of stuff, and she was actually clearing out a lot of things from her stash recently, because my uncle basically did what my boyfriend does every now and then and told her that there was way too much crap lying around. So she was very generously, I won't kind of bore you with all of them, but she very generously gave me a collection of some cross stitch magazines. Most of them are cross stitcher, which I did go through a period of getting, but Cross Stitch Crazy won out in terms of getting a subscription, but these are ones that came just before I started buying it. So it was really nice. I've got some kind of ideas from here of projects I might do in the future. What I've always liked about the cross stitch magazines is that they're very modern. So yeah, it was just really nice of her to give me them. She's given me a few kind of freebie kits that have come with various things. So I've got, as I say, I'm not really one for small kits, but I might do these Christmas tags for Christmas. I think they could be good. One thing she gave me was a lovely 1992 journaling kit, which she thought I would like, and she was right. And it's called the Castle Sampler. How cool is that? It's really nice. I really, really like it. A bit of a glare on there, so you can see the kind of medieval people. This was really me. She noticed that I like fantasy designs. It's probably, the colour palette is probably a little bit more muted than I prefer, but it's really good. The only thing I'd say though is that it divides the colours in a really inefficient way. It has like 4 of these bundles here, and you're supposed to just separate, go to bundle 1, bundle 2 on the instructions and separate what colour's what. And what's really annoying is there's got to be about 20 or so colours in each bundle that are really similar in colour. I don't see how on earth that could have been the most easy way to sort out what threads what. I've never really understood why companies don't just sort them out for you as part of the kit. It just makes no sense to me that they make it that confusing. So I'm not really looking forward to the kind of setup stage of that, but I don't think this is going to be one I'll do straight away, but I am holding on to it. So I'm really grateful, because this was actually the very first cross stitch she ever bought. So if anybody has done the Castle Sampler by Jan Lynn 1992, let me know. Cool. A couple of things I wanted to kind of bring back into the frame. So you may remember a very long time ago, before I moved, that I got an amazing Heaven and Earth design kit that I had to put away, because basically I didn't have anywhere to put it, and it is now back with a vengeance. As in, I haven't started working on it again, but I would like to very, very soon. Sorry, I'm trying to find, so I'm trying not to show you the design. Here we go. Lovely, lovely, lovely Scallop Pond by Benta Schlick. I've been missing this so much, and I really, really, really want to get into it now. So I'm doing this 2/1. It's got 87 colours. I'm doing it 2/1 on even weave, Magic Guide 25 count even weave. I will remind you and remind myself how much I've done. No, I can't, because it's on the cross stitch frame, but not a lot anyway. I've done about 3 grid squares or something worth, which at the time took me ages. So I just wanted to kind of remind you about that, really, because I will be trying to focus a little bit more about that after Christmas. So it's amazing with Heaven and Earth designs because they're so diverse and there is so many of them that it's actually quite rare to find anybody that's actually stitched exactly the same project as you. There are a few exceptions. There are some that I know are incredibly popular designs. There's one of a fairy sitting on a bubble that a lot of people have done, which I was thinking about doing as well. But that scallop pond one is one that I never see on any cross stitch pages. Doesn't ever seem to come up, so I don't know whether it's not a particularly popular design. But if anybody out there is doing it, please let me know because I'd really like to see it. And yeah, and I also thought we talk about UFOs, FFOs. I wonder what we'd call this. This is a forgotten project. I realised I had completely forgotten about a project that I started earlier in the year. So this is the Counted Stitch by Jane Green off Hedgerow Sampler. And you may remember in one of my first videos mentioning this. It is up my street in terms of the colour palette, and I really like the linen, but to be honest, I think I did mention at the time, it's probably a bit traditional for me. But I just wanted to remind you of it because I'm reminding myself of it because I haven't even picked it up for months, and the thing was putting it in one of these sewing boxes because it almost, every time I saw the sewing box, I thought it was just an empty sewing box that I just had in my random stash, and I forgot that it actually had something in it. But the quality of this linen is really lovely, and that's as far as I got with it. But I'm quite impressed with how neat my stitching is on that. And that's one that I might try and pick up at some point in the new year. I think it would be, I'm hesitant to do another one for my grandma because I think she's quite a practical person, and as much as she'd appreciate it, I'm not sure she would really have anywhere she feels she would want to put it. So it will be, my mum loves craft things, and my mum is a typical mum in that she will be so happy about anything that you make her or get for her or do for her. So I might just make that another thing to one day aspire to giving my mum, so we'll see. And the other thing is that my mum does actually live in a country cottage, so it would be quite nice for her to have that. So I'll have a think about that. Okay, so that is everything apart from the fact that, yes, I did mention I'm thinking about having a fabric subscription. I've more or less narrowed it down to the Crafty Kitten, but I need to have a think. There was also, I forget what it's called, it might have been called Stitchy Box or something, but there was this really cool website that did like kind of boxes of various sewing supplies, various cross stitch supplies, instead of just like your fabric or whatever. But from what I remember, it was quite expensive. They did a Christmas box that really, really tempted me, but I thought, oh, I better not. So that's not one I can afford at the moment, but maybe something for next year. So that's mostly it for today. We've got to the 48-minute mark, and I have to admit my voice hurts from talking. But I did want to mention something that's quite personal at the end of this video. And I hope I don't, sorry, my cat's going mental. I hope I don't upset anybody with this post, but this is something that I've been thinking about for a long time, and I know it isn't necessarily the place to reveal this or to talk about this, but it's something that I wanted to share with my viewers. So for a long time I've been considering doing a sister blog, video blog that isn't a Flosstube one, that it's about another issue in my life or another aspect of my life that I feel is something a lot more personal. Oh my god, she's really going for it. Sorry, she's really actually freaking me out quite a lot. That's really bad timing as well with this video. I think she's just having a completely imaginary fight with something or other, and it's driving me mad. Sorry. Back to serious phase. I have a condition that I haven't ever shared on this channel, because why would I? But I feel that I've come to the point where I have started to feel that I've lived with this condition for about a year, and I feel that it's something that I can support other people with, and particularly other young women with. and I would like to think about starting a blog to do with it in the new year, but I wanted to gauge your thoughts on it and see if it's something that you think is a good idea, a bad idea. I'm interested in your honest feedback about this and whether this is something you think I should kind of leave well alone from YouTube. So to cut a very long story short, I found out about a year and a half ago when I was 26 that, without knowing it at the age of about 23, or without really knowing it at the time, I had gone through a premature menopause, which is also sometimes called premature ovarian failure, or POF. Obviously, you might not see it here because this is a cheery cross-stitch blog, but obviously I've made references to anxiety and depression before in this blog, which I don't shy away from mentioning. But the reason why I make reference to that is because obviously one of the really devastating side effects, unfortunately, of having premature menopause or premature ovarian failure is that typically it means that you can't biologically have your own child anymore, and you are therefore infertile. And this has brought up a lot of issues for me. It's something I found very difficult to deal with. It's a real shock to know that when you're in early 20s, you've reached a life stage which most people don't get to until they're about 50. It's been a lot of soul searching, a lot of really awful conversations with my partner, which have been really difficult. And for me, it's about time. I don't feel that I've dealt with it particularly well in the last year. I think for a lot of reasons I've kind of been very upset, and I go to see a counsellor about it, but there feels like there's something missing in the way I'm dealing with it. And I actually realise that the part that's missing for me is I want to help other young women in my situation, because I can categorically tell you that there are two assumptions in everything that I've read, that I've tried to read to try and help me, which have meant that I haven't found the support I need. Firstly, that anything written about the menopause is made on the assumption that you're at least in your 40s. So all of the advice, guidance, help and support is geared around that. And actually there are some very important medical differences between people that are in their 20s who have premature menopause than to people who are going through menopause at normal age. So it's really important that people in my situation get to hear from somebody that knows how it feels, about what is important for them to know. Secondly, the second assumption is that when you have an infertility problem, the situation that you are in is that you're in a couple who are actively looking to have a child, who both are on the same page, who both want the same thing. In the real world, what can happen is my situation, which is nobody's fault, but the fact that your partner actually doesn't want to have a child, and you have to deal with that on top of the fact that you have also found out that you biologically can't have a child either. So there is a double trauma, if you like. So I guess what I'm saying is, it's very fun doing cross-stitch Flosstube, and it's something that I want to continue and something I'm really passionate about in a different way. But one of my passions, which is obviously, for obvious reasons, been a bit more private, has been, the idea of helping people to navigate and understand this diagnosis and to get the right support in a world which, quite frankly, doesn't give any support for women my age that find themselves in this position. I've yet to find anybody on Facebook support groups who has been diagnosed with premature menopause or infertility issues to really have had a positive experience with how much support, information and guidance they were given by medical professionals. So obviously the majority of the kind of references I make to the health system applies to the NHS in the UK, but I think the experience of the issues and feelings and emotions it brings up is probably universal amongst anybody in the world who's found themselves in this position. So this may seem very irrelevant to this blog, but it seemed about time to mention it. I've been thinking about it for the past few videos as something that I might bring up, something I might share with you. I feel I've reached it might sound strange, but I feel like I've reached a level of trust in the community that I feel safe to kind of share this with you. I know that I'm fully aware that YouTube is an open public platform, and it doesn't particularly bother me that people could find that out about me. But it was really to get your thoughts about whether you think that would be a good idea. I can tell you now that there will be people that you know. They may not be people that are in your really close circle of family and friends, but there will be somebody that you know that is either struggling with premature menopause or is struggling with infertility issues, either primary or secondary infertility, and it's really important to know how to support those people well. So this is not just about, if you are suffering from this condition, getting the help you need. It's also help to support other people in your life who might be experiencing this, because that can be difficult too. So I just wanted to let you know I probably won't be starting this vlog, if I do start it, until the new year. I think it's a better time to start it in the new year for me. But that's just an end note. So I apologise if I've inadvertently offended or upset anybody, because I know that this is a bit of an emotional topic. But the intention is to let you know, if one of you watching this video is somebody affected by those things, even if it's not directly premature menopause, even if it's just another form of infertility, you know, and you don't feel particularly well supported, I hope that I will be able to pass on my experience, and it will just be reflections on my experience and what I know. I'm not going to try and be a doctor, but I'm hoping that it might be helpful, even if it was just for one of you watching this video. So, you know, thank you very much. Thank you for watching today's video. I'm going to try and get some stitching done before my boyfriend comes home from work. So thank you for watching, and I will catch up on all of your videos and hopefully do this Christmas present video soon for you. So goodbye. Bye.